Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Design for Health here at Stanford School of Medicine. I'm Dr. Kyra Bobinet, along with my co-instructor, Dr. Larry Chu, who is an associate professor of anesthesiology here at Stanford, as well as the executive director of MedX. And we are very, very happy to have an e-patient moderator with us tonight, an expert in diabetes, Christopher Snider, who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in the fall of 2002 during his freshman year at Virginia Tech. He joined Twitter in 2008, started to pay attention to diabetes blogs and sharing his own experience. Then in 2009, he started his own diabetes blog, and 5 years later, he's still blogging, sharing the ups and downs of life with diabetes. He actively participates and advocates on behalf of the diabetes community whenever possible, using Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, and blogging, or even a podcast. So we're very honored to have Chris here moderating for us tonight. He will be doing the first Ignite talk after this message, which is about 2 minutes long. So stay with us.
If you are joining us for the first time, a quick reminder that there is a simultaneous conversation happening on Twitter right now using the hashtag MedX. Christopher Snider is the in-class moderator for today's program and will be taking questions from social media. So please make sure to start up your Twitter client to join in the online conversation and interact with today's speakers. Christopher Snider, otherwise known as I Am Spartacus, is moderating the online tweet chat discussion this evening. We also wish to remind you that registration for MedicineX 2014 is now open. Don't miss the year's premier patient-centered conference on emerging technology and medicine. Unique opportunities such as our masterclass program and our IDEO Design Challenge workshop have extremely limited space availability. You'll want to make sure to take advantage of these programs while our early bird registration pricing is still available until May 1st, 2014. Please also make sure to like our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/StanfordMedX. Please note you are watching a live online program and there is a delay between real-time events and the live stream you are watching. Tweets from our in-class guests will appear before you see the real-time events they are tweeting about unfold on the video live stream.
Hi, I'm Chris. As mentioned, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 2002. I started my blog. Technically, I registered the URL December 31st, 2008. It was a pretty rough New Year's Eve. And yeah, early on, I was basically documenting my frustrations with diabetes, my efforts to try to find control, a lot of angry stuff. But then as my life kind of leveled out, got engaged, got some cats, life became a lot easier. And now I kind of use my blog to connect with other people with diabetes throughout the world, and also to refine and define my role as a patient advocate. It's been a pretty interesting journey. I've been posting every day that I can, but most of the time, like I said, life is a lot easier now, so it's a lot of cat pictures if you go there right now. One of the other platforms that I use outside of the blog is my podcast, Just Talking. I've been publishing that. I guess I just published episode 235 this past Tuesday, every Tuesday, since I don't miss a Tuesday. But the podcast is a casual conversation. It's a one-on-one kind of interview style thing. Most of the time I've been talking with members of patient communities, not just people with diabetes, and I've actually learned a lot from people outside of my own diabetes community. I find that, actually I personally believe that everybody has a story worth telling, and even if my platform is only 12 or 24 listeners, I want to try and give them that platform to tell their story. Outside of the blog and the podcast, I've been experimenting with Tumblr to try to find ways to connect with the diabetes community over there. My biggest success story is My Diabetes Secret. There I host anonymous submissions of people living with diabetes or affected by diabetes. And they basically, it's kind of like Post Secret, but it's diabetes related. This has been going on since November, and I think it's almost up to 1,000 followers now, which is pretty crazy considering how many times I've tried to connect with people with diabetes. I have a couple of examples up here for the slides, and this stuff is pretty intense. Early on, I actually had to add a page detailing resources for people in case they were having suicidal thoughts, because that's how real this stuff is. I mean, these are actual emotions of people with diabetes and what they're dealing with. I've been kind of rambling a little bit, so you have an opportunity to read some of these things, but I read every single one of these submissions, and I actually had to stop reading them after 9 p.m. because it would be freaking me out a little too much. But it's not just about me. The great thing about the diabetes community is that there are just a wide number of initiatives out there that are driven by patients. Shreesh Shockley created the Diabetes Community Advocacy Foundation. Among their many efforts, there's a weekly Twitter chat every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, in case you want to lurk. The hashtag is DSMA. They also have 3 weekly Blog Talk radio shows, one that's based off of the Twitter chat, one that's hosted by parents of children with diabetes, and they approach that subject from the parental perspective, and also have a show that's entirely in Spanish. So Shreesh is doing an excellent job of trying to reach out, and often whenever we find people that are new to the diabetes community, we point them in her direction first. Kim Vlasnik started the You Can Do This project, similar to the It Gets Better project. It's people with diabetes sharing their personal stories over YouTube. It's a pretty powerful thing whenever you can actually see the emotion in that person's face as they're detailing some of the lower points in their life with diabetes, but it always ends with them saying, if I can do this, you can do this. And it's a very uplifting project, and it's a pretty powerful thing as well. Finally, if you prefer a little more literal term as far as diabetes advocacy is concerned, Bennett Dunlap created Strip Safely, and I'm going to loosely summarize it, and he's going to kill me because I'm not going to get all the details right, but the FDA has a say in how accurate my blood glucose meter is and how accurate those test strips are. Right now, the diabetes community, people with diabetes that actually care about this stuff, we don't believe that those standards are just anywhere near what they could be or they should be. Bennett created Strip Safely as a way to kind of gather the diabetes community, and he's been helping promote the conversation with the FDA directly. And to illustrate that, this is a picture of Bennett literally at the table with the FDA talking about test strip accuracy. These are the types of things that a diabetes community is capable of, and it's pretty exciting. This was 3 weeks ago, I believe. If you are really interested in engaging with the diabetes community, blogging or the blogs are usually the best starting point. I've listed 3 up here. 6untilme.com is probably the go-to blog from Carrie Sparling. She's been blogging for a really long time. Almost everybody in the diabetes community, their story starts with, I found Carrie's blog, and then I started writing my own. Scott Johnson, he writes at scottsdiabetes.com. He's one of the best people I know. And as mentioned, Kim Vlasnik, she's the one who did the You Can Do This project. She writes at textingmypancreas.com. Again, if you want to start somewhere, these are the best 3 places to start. They have blog rules there, and they list pretty much every active diabetes blog out there as well. These are my go-to people. But the exciting thing is that it's not just about the diabetes community. The entire patient community is out there trying to advocate for our causes. But it's not necessarily enough. We have to do all this together. The one thing, actually I have to write this down because I think it's important enough. We, the patient community, can work together with providers, device manufacturers, medical professionals, even medical students like yourself. I mean, we want to be part of this conversation. In my opinion, we need to be part of this conversation. So as we move forward in this class, you talk about designing for health. My advice to you is just don't forget about us, the patients. Thank you. Told you about the cats. So here's a brief introduction before we get to the really good part. Coming up next is going to be Dr. Matthew Diamond. Matthew is a sports medicine physician and a medical lead at Misfit Wearables, makers of highly wearable computing products, including the award-winning Shine, which he will detail on his jacket when he gets up here. Matthew serves in national leadership roles in sports medicine and is on the faculty of New York University's Ruck Institute of Rehabilitation Medicine and Harkness Center for Dance Injuries. He pursued advanced training in physiology and biophysics at Mount Sinai in New York City. He was a fellow in spine and sports medicine at the Hospital for Special Surgery. An award-winning teacher and researcher of integrative medicine and mobile health, Matthew is passionate about helping people improve their mobility and performance through innovative integrative medical treatments and the development of wearable devices that promote wellness. That was a mouthful, but I'm really excited for this talk right after these messages.
Time to take another shout out to Twitter. If you are following this conversation online or on Twitter, Christopher Snider, otherwise known as I Am Spartacus, is moderating the Twitter discussion on the MedX hashtag. If you are just joining us, we have with us today Matthew Diamond, MD, PhD, from Misfit Wearables, speaking with us today on the topic Designing for Wearability. E-patients and caregivers out there, what questions do you have for our speakers today? What are some of the ways you think you might benefit from wearable technologies? Healthcare providers, technologists, and researchers out there, what are the real-world problems you are facing that you think might be addressed through a better understanding of how devices might be designed for greater wearability in healthcare? Tweet us your questions or responses, and we'll do our best to have them addressed during this class in the Stanford Medical School course, Design for Health, for Thursday, April 17th, 2014.
And I'd like to thank Larry and Kyra for inviting me to be here. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, great. Sorry, I'm recovering from a little bit of a cold, so let me know if you have any trouble hearing me. I also wanted to thank Chris for a really great description of his story and the great work that he's been doing talking about, blogging about diabetes. And thank you very much for that, Chris. It's exciting to be part of this class, designing here for health. I had the opportunity to review some of the videos from the previous classes, and it's an honor to be able to give a lecture as part of this series. I'm going to talk today about wearable technology, but I wanted to start out by telling you a little bit about my background so you know where I'm coming from. As Chris said, I am a sports medicine physician, but my primary training in medicine is as a rehabilitation medicine physician, also called a physiatrist. And so my work at Misfit Wearables is informed by that background and that approach. So as you know, I do work for Misfit. That's why I'm here. And let me just start out by introducing my field, which is physiatry. It's also called physical medicine and rehabilitation, PM&R. It's a small field in medicine, and it's relatively new. And our goal is to enhance and restore function and quality of life, including mobility, to patients with impairments and disability. So what you see here is a picture of a patient being fitted with an ankle brace. It's an incredibly important piece of wearable technology. This picture is probably from the 40s or 50s. And the person there that's kneeling is Dr. Howard Rusk, who people say is the father of rehabilitation medicine. So that brace is necessary because that patient has some type of nerve disorder, a foot drop, and that brace allows them to basically walk more normally, be more active, be more mobile, and do the kind of things that they would like to do. But it's important not only that that brace functions, it's important that it's comfortable, it's important that aesthetically it's not too bulky. They can wear it in the winter, they can wear it in the summer, and there are a lot of factors that go into it. So some of the tenets of rehabilitation medicine, which I think have great application for design, and particularly for design for healthcare and wearable technology, are that in physiatry, our goal is to improve our patients' functioning. Okay? Our emphasis is not so much on what is the disease or the disorder. Our emphasis is on how are patients doing and what can we do to help them do the things that they want to do. And our focus is on the patient experience. What is the context in which they're living? What are the biopsychosocial factors influencing their care and their experience? We take a very holistic approach. So I'm not a surgeon. There are orthopedic surgeons who also do sports medicine, but I do what I can to help people non-operatively. And I would encourage you all, we all will get aches and pains. Just a public health announcement for you. Always see what you can do non-surgically before you go ahead and have something taken care of surgically. Part of my training included acupuncture, so I really like to look at the whole person and provide an integrative approach to their care. And clearly, team approach is crucial. Rehab medicine is one of the fields that from the beginning, if you have someone, let's say they've had a stroke or a spinal cord injury, and they are in the hospital recovering, at least once a week, and it's for those of you who have been in the hospital, either yourself or caring for a family member, you may know, and I'm sure that it's been discussed in the context of patient stories, how difficult it is sometimes to coordinate care from one medical team to another medical team to the nurses. And in rehab medicine, at least once every week, there's a meeting that involves a representative from every group that is taking care of a patient. And that would include the physician, the rehab nurse, the physical therapist, the occupational therapist. Every patient sees a psychologist, a nutritionist, and a social worker. If they're a stroke patient, we also bring in a speech and swallow pathologist and therapist. So I think the rest of medicine is catching on, improving their communication. But from the beginning, we knew that we needed to get all the stakeholders in the room. And remember that when you're designing a product, the same is true. Okay. So again, our focus is not so much about the disease. As Chris said, thinking too much about the disease itself can be disturbing. And it's not what folks with diabetes want to do. They don't want to feel like someone who has diabetes, as Chris said. They want to do the things that everyone does and feel as normal as they can. And that's another thing to remember in designing a wearable product as well. There's a heavy emphasis on goals in rehab medicine. And this is a picture of a dancer. As Chris said, we take care of some folks who've had significant accidents or trauma. We also take care of athletes and individuals who are basically coming to see us to help improve their performance. And as the picture indicates, there are all these joints, all these parts that need to work, but essentially the patient needs to take an active role in their recovery. And you have to take into account the whole patient and understand what are they trying to do, what are they trying to communicate. And I found that the more active a role a patient takes in their own healthcare and in their own recovery, certainly the better their prognosis and the better they do. And that's the reason why I was very excited to join the team at Misfit, because it was an opportunity to build devices that people could wear every day, all the time, in between when they were seeing their physician, while they're sleeping, while they're eating, and essentially it would make them more mindful about their health and engage them in their own wellness. So let me tell you a little bit about Misfit. First, let me just ask, how many folks here are wearing a wearable device, whatever brand it is, some type of pedometer, some type of activity tracker? Okay, great. And how many folks have used one in the past? Okay, great. Okay. So I will give a little bit of a review of all the different types, but essentially at Misfit, our goal is to create great wearable products that help people flourish, that help them to do the things that they want to do. And we have an office here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We also have a large office in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. And we do a lot of our manufacturing actually in Korea. So a quick review, as I promised, of wearable technology. You can see there's a lot of different types of products out there. We'll break it down more specifically. And you can see that there's a lot of clips. And actually, our product, which is the Shine, can be worn as a clip. We like to say that it can be worn anywhere on your wrist. You can clip it to your foot. You can clip it to your waistband. I'm wearing it here on my lapel. A lot of different clips to keep track of, for the most part, your physical activity. Okay, let me go forward. Straps and armbands, you're probably familiar with a heart rate monitor, and they're all different types. We also see here on the left, you may see folks at the gym wearing this body media device that attaches to the upper arm, and it has other sensors that not only detect movement, but it also detects body temperature, and it helps to estimate your caloric burn. In addition to that, we have a number of wrist-worn devices, some of the more popular ones, the Fuel Band, the Jawbone, Basis. Some of them detect heart rate. Shine is there as well because you can wear it on your wrist. And a lot of these devices have moved not only into measuring your physical activity, but also measuring your sleep, which I would definitely recommend. It's been very rewarding for me to get more in touch with my sleep. And you know, when you're at the gym and you're lifting and you're sweating, that's an incredibly important part. But where the rebuilding happens and where the regeneration and the growth and the recuperation happens is while you're sleeping. And you need both to be in balance. There are specifically sleep-worn devices. Some were worn as a headband that explicitly measure your brain waves while you're sleeping. And then there are wrist-worn devices that measure your movement. There are patches, and there are more patches than I'm showing here. This is just a sample, but there are patches that you can wear that basically take a continuous EKG or heart rhythm as well. And there are patches being developed that actually deliver a little bit of a vibration or a buzz or a massaging sensation for after the workout to put on sore muscles. So there's a lot of devices coming out, and here's some shoe-worn devices as well. Also, internet-connected scales. You weigh yourself every morning. You don't have to keep track of it yourself. These scales will communicate with your phone, with other systems, and for those who are monitoring their weight, it's a great way to do it sort of in a less invasive manner. So let's just sort of skip forward. Clothes, heart rate monitors. There's a lot of devices here. And the fact is that for every one of these devices, pretty much you have an app. You have software that interfaces with these devices. And you also have software that is standalone, that will basically turn your phone into a wearable device. And there are apps where you can place your phone on your mattress. Some of you may have used these to track your sleep. And especially with the new Apple 5S phones, there's activity tracking feature that is actually working continuously. That you can actually ask your phone, if you know how, to tell you within the last week exactly what you were doing at any given time. Were you walking, standing, sitting? All of that is being tracked and recorded. So for those of you who didn't realize you were wearing a wearable device, if you have your phone in your pocket, then you are. Okay? So the question is, with all of these devices coming out and a lot more on the way, have they taken off? And I would say that they really haven't yet, because only a small sample of this room is wearing these devices, and you are some of the more connected individuals that that I know. In other words, even in the San Francisco area, where we do see people walking around with Google Glass, and there's a lot more wearable devices, it's still a percentage. And if you go further away from the Bay, less and less folks are wearing these devices. So why is it that these devices haven't really taken off yet? And I think part of the reason is that the first generation of wearable devices are really look like someone is going to go run an Ironman, or they're plastic, they're bulky, and it sends a certain message that you may not want to send, or you may not want to send all the time. You might want to wear it while you're working out, but you may not be wearing it now. And then if you're taking it on and off, that's a whole another challenge, and it's easy to forget to wear it, to charge it. And what I would say is that Wearables 2.0, where we're going and what will allow wearable technology to be more universally adopted, is when the device is relatively invisible, or if it's visible, it's something that people think is beautiful and that they're happy to wear all the time. And so this happens to be the Shine. Someone's wearing it as a necklace. You can see it sends a different message than some of the other devices. And I would say that the design focus that went into Shine is an important part of its success. So let me go over some design principles for wearables, for wearability. And I try to basically bring it all into 3 principles, and we'll go through each one. Designing for wearability, you need to make sure that what you're wearing is really solving a problem. Okay, and that sounds trivial, but there's actually a lot going on there, and we'll talk about it. Number 2, it's important that you really put the human first. And it's not that you have a device and you say, well, what am I going to do with this device? Where can I stick it? You really want to say, well, where do people have a need? And that's where, that's the place to bring your technology. And the third principle is that the device really needs to be a good team player. And we'll talk about what that means. So what do I mean solve problems? Well, I mean solve substantial, articulable problems. And if you can articulate the problem that you're solving in a sentence, that's great. I think that's the best. It should be simple. It should be obvious. An example here is a company called Scully Helmets that is creating a helmet with a built-in rear-view camera that you can see inside the helmet, along with a navigation system and built-in microphone and earpieces. And this solves a real problem, okay? Because if you're in a motorcycle and you're speeding along at 70 miles an hour, you don't have a lot of leeway to turn your head and see what's going on behind you. And if you don't know where you're going, it's not so easy to navigate without the type of assistance that a device like this could provide. So this is not a medical device, but this is a potentially life-saving device. And certainly I've taken care of a lot of folks, unfortunately, with significant injuries from motorcycles. A device like the Scully helmets, I think, meets a real need. And I think it's a great example of a really important problem to solve. Let me give you a little bit more detailed introduction to the Misfit device. It's called the Shine, and I'm wearing it here. And if I double tap it, you can see some lights light up. So let me explain how it works and what it means. So there are 12 lights around the perimeter of your Shine. And basically, the problem that Shine solves is I want to be able to figure out if I'm moving enough, right? Because we all know that the more active you are in general, the healthier you are. And physical activity is one of the most important contributors to your overall well-being, physical, mental, emotional. And even recent studies have come out that obviously we know it's not healthy to be overweight, but it turns out that to be inactive is much, much worse than being overweight. And if you're active, it actually is not as important, the fact that someone is overweight. But if you're thin and you're inactive, it's a very poor prognosis for health. in terms of all the things that we hear about heart attack, stroke, diabetes, and stuff like this. So we wanted to ask, or at least allow our users to ask, am I moving enough? And to have that question answered very, very simply. So when you set up the Shine, it asks you, well, what's your daily movement goal? And it suggests a 10,000 steps a day, which is sort of a standard public health recommendation. So that goal is represented by completion of the circle. So if you've gone half of your goal and you tap the Shine, then half the lights light up. And if you've completed your goal, then all the lights light up. And you'll see that some of these activity monitors actually will give you an exact step count. They'll say, well, you have gone 7,293 steps. Congratulations. You only have 2,000 something, to go. What we decided is it doesn't really matter in the moment if you've gone 7,293 steps or 7,393 steps. You just want to know, basically, have you moved enough today? And that's what you need with you on a moment-to-moment basis to make a decision and say, am I going to walk home? What am I going to do this evening to meet my goal? Any questions about how this works? Or maybe we'll save our questions for the end, as is the custom here. So this is an example of solving problems. So what's another part of solving problems is, well, you don't want to create new problems. Or at least at a minimum, you want the net problems to go down, right? One common problem about wearable devices is that they need to be charged. And we all know we need to charge our computer, we need to charge our phone, we need to charge our iPad, and it's just frustrating to have to charge something else and keep track of that. And when you charge it, you're not wearing it. And then you have to remember to wear it again. So what we decided with the Shine is to really focus on the efficiency. And I think a question came up earlier about the energy of the devices. So we really maximize the energy efficiency within our activity tracker. And Shine does not require charging at all. So essentially, you wear the device. You can wear it continuously for about 4 to 6 months. And then when the batteries run out, you just change the battery. And that's it. And that's how it works. And we thought that was a really important design decision that we made. So one last thing about solving problems is that the best is when you can really augment or enhance the activities that someone enjoys. I mean, that's really something that's going to make someone hold on to your device and value it. And this is someone that's running. If you have a device that encourages them to run, or maybe even that helps them while they're running, looking at this runner, it looks like actually from a form perspective, they're doing what's called overstriding, which is that where their foot is having an impact with the ground is significantly ahead of where the rest of them is. And she looks like she's young and healthy, and this may be fine, but there are things that she can do to help prevent injuries, including basically shortening her stride, perhaps, leaning forward when she's running. And if you can have a device that gives someone feedback about their activities that allow them to do it in a healthier way, to do it in a more injury-free way, I think you're solving a real problem. So the second principle is to put humans first. And what do I mean by that? Basically, you want your device to be available, but you don't want it to get in the way. And we made Shine waterproof, and we really wanted to make it comfortable. So I have an example of the swimmer here. When you wear Shine on your wrist, it's a very smooth, thin shape, and you can swim with it, and you really don't feel like it's there. And the same thing when you are sleeping with it. It's sometimes I don't know, am I wearing Shine on my wrist or not? It was a decision that we made. We didn't want to get in the way. And another example of this from a software point of view is, I don't know if you have used apps in the past that send you notifications. You don't want to send too many notifications that becomes annoying or becomes basically interfering with the experience. So that's an important principle. Another part of putting humans first is you want to harness basically natural behaviors. And so, in all fairness, this is not a wearable device. This was an artistic piece. But I just put it here as an example. You don't want to create something that is going to have someone to force them to adopt a new habit that is bizarre and unfamiliar and like nothing they would do without the device. And lastly, if they're going to be carrying it around, you want to try to make it small. And that was also an emphasis for us. Really minimize the footprint. You don't want to weigh someone down with your wearable device. So what do I mean by be a team player? Well, I mean a number of things. So you may recognize this from Office Space. Every device is going to have to communicate either with a phone or a computer with some type of software. And that communication between the hardware and the software, if that's not a great experience, doesn't matter how good your actual hardware is. It's going to be too frustrating to use. So basically, that's something that is built at the time of the design. This is an area where the hardware team and the firmware team and the software team and the industrial design folks have to sit down together and have to be in the same room and have to talk through how something is going to work. And each one needs to know, what are the next set of features? And they say, well, if you would have told me that, then I would have constructed the software differently. I didn't know we were going to pinch and zoom in on the graph on the app or something like that. It's these types of things that you need to get everyone in the room, understand what the plan is together, and that's an incredibly important part of the process. All stakeholders need to be involved and need to be represented in the design process. And another piece here is, when I talk about being a team player, is that someone has an activity tracker, they have a scale, they may have another monitoring device. All of these need to be able to talk to each other well. So your wearable device needs to be built in such a way to basically encourage connectivity. I'll give you an example. When does a wearable device become really usable and really useful? A lot of, I think that what takes it to the next level is, when your activity monitor starts talking to your calendar, and it also knows what the weather is going to be like. And so it could say, well, I see you got a message that says, you have a super busy day tomorrow. You're not going to have time to do much. You're not going to have time to go to the gym. But I can see it's going to be a great day. Why don't you bike to work tomorrow? Just a little suggestion that you might not have thought of. And it may say, you know what, and I know that you should put your bike clothes out the night before because it's going to be early. And if you do that, you're going to be twice as likely to go biking on your way to work than if you're not. And now you have a really actionable suggestion that's going to make a real difference, that if you didn't put it all together, you might just end up at the end of the next day exhausted and not having gotten in the physical activity that you had wanted. The last piece about excelling in connectivity and being a team player is you don't know what's going to be out there in the future. You don't know what are the devices that you want your device to be able to talk to and interact with in the future. So one of the things that we decided was crucial was to really build a foolproof upgrade system so that the firmware on Shine, basically, we can upgrade it over the air. And so if there's a feature that we want to add, if there's an algorithm on the device that we want to hone or improve, that can be upgraded, basically within a minute's time in a normal sync between Shine and an iPhone. Two last points, and then I would love to get questions. Essentially, I think an important part of wearables, where we are right now, is that they help to bring a certain amount of mindfulness to what we do. And let's say that a device tells you what your calorie count is or your step count is. I don't think it's so crucial, the exact count. And it may not even be crucial that the calorie count is exactly accurate, because it's really difficult to do a calorie count that's accurate for all the individual users of a device. But just having the person see the step count or see the calorie count or look at information about whether they've been sleeping enough makes them think about those activities. And it's been shown, that just bringing someone's awareness to these activities makes a tremendous impact in their health. What I wanted to say here is when you display data to the user, it needs to be done at their level in a way that they can understand and in a way that they can do something about it. Okay. So where I want to leave you is just with the idea that we are in an evolutionary process in wearables. We've been in wearables 1.0. We are just entering wearables 2.0. To look at the timeline, to have a little bit more perspective on this, we've come a long way, certainly, but we have a lot more to offer. And I think this is where I'm going to pause and like to take some questions.
All right, let me pull up my phone. I'm supposed to give a couple of shout outs to people who've been watching online. Hi, camera. Let's see. Jennifer Dyer, Chris Connolly, Dana Greenfield, Carly Medosh, Carrie McKay, Jane Carrington, Alan Brewington, and Lisa Bernstein. That's just a handful of people that have been watching online. So thanks for tuning in and keeping the conversation going there. Questions from the class? You've got the microphone, go ahead.
So one of the questions is, you talked about the beauty of the design and the sleek elegance of it. How do you see that fitting into like medical devices, since this is kind of a design for health? There's a lot of different trackers or medical devices that people have to have on them or carry with them. How do you see that design, that process that you guys used, applied to the medical device field?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's very applicable. And I'll give you an example. So the founders of Misfit Wearables were Sunny Vu and Sridhar Iyengar, in addition to John Scully. But Sunny and Sridhar had a previous company called Agamatrix that produced glucose meters for diabetics. I think one of the accomplishments that they're most proud of is the device they created called the IBG Star. And some of you may be familiar, which was the first medical device to directly interface with the iPhone. And it's just a very small glucometer, and it basically sticks right into the bottom interface of the iPhone. And the feedback that they got about that was, wow, like folks that had to carry around with them and use it loved the design. And one of the things I think they really liked about it, and I'd love to hear Chris's perspective.
I actually did use one for a while.
Yeah, was that they didn't feel like they were carrying around this medical device that looked like it should have been in a lab, and they felt very medicalized by it. And the feedback they got from parents of children who had diabetes was that this was the first glucose meter that they had ever seen children save up their own savings to go and buy this glucose meter. And I think it was the design that engaged them in the process and invested them in monitoring their blood sugar. So I think we shouldn't forget about design with the medical device. Shine is a commercial device, so, but I think it applies as well in medicine.
The interesting thing for me is that I'm using an Android phone, so the actual iPhone connectivity didn't really matter to me, but whenever you connect it to like an iPod Touch, It would also gather all that data and do all the logging for you, which is a big pain for most people with diabetes. Some people prefer to do like the handwriting and can reflect on it. I'm not one of those people, but you could download all that data, export it to a CSV, play around with it all you like. So I mean, there are additional functionality like that. Had it not stopped working for me, I'd probably still be using it. So you know, obviously that's not a dig on you or anything. But one question from Twitter is, how do you? This is from Alan Brewington. How do wearable device makers identify problems to solve? I mean, I know that recently, I'm not sure if it's out yet, but there's a new device called the Lift that helps with posture.
Yeah.
How do you go about, for you as example, finding problems to solve before you actually go down the whole design process?
Yeah. So we take in, every idea, suggestion that initially come from friends and family, and we're pretty open, to basically trying to think about what are the needs. Whenever you think about, man, I wish there was something that would help me with my posture, like Lift. Things that are really difficult to do without a little bit of help. Sometimes one place to look is if there's a need right now that's being filled by an actual person, a physical trainer, a physical therapist, but people can only afford to do that in a limited amount of time. You can't have someone walking around with you all the time to be correcting you with your posture. So basically extending the human reach and having technology basically it's something that people can walk around with all the time to do the things that maybe a friend or a professional could do with them, but just on a very limited basis.
Classroom?
So just curious, going off of what you were just saying, in your example in your talk about the runner overstriding, can the Shine tell you that you're overstriding, for example? Or?
So not right now, not in anything that is released right now.
Got one up front.
Kind of with the implementation and the takeoff of wearable technology or other kind of devices, is there any concern that it's going to exacerbate kind of inequity within health? Because kind of my thoughts are a lot of people aren't going to be able to afford these devices, and would it detract from public health attention if a portion of the population is kind of taking care of the problem through these new technologies? Is a portion of the population going to get kind of left behind?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it's something that we think about all the time. The good news is that all the components that are in all these devices are becoming more powerful and less expensive all the time. So, when some of these devices first come out, they're going to be a couple $100s. But we see the price point coming down rapidly, and at Misfit, we would like to basically make everything that we produce available to as wide an audience as we can. So an interesting thing is there have been some studies with healthcare, especially in a context of lower socioeconomic means. And it turns out that even in areas where there's a tremendous amount of poverty, a lot of people have cell phones. Cell phones are sort of an equalizer in our society. And it may not be the same exact model, but it's pretty amazing how many folks are walking around with the equivalent of a fairly powerful computer with them all the time. So the more that devices can allow a phone that people already have to do some of the fancy stuff and keep the device with inexpensive components, I think that wearable technology has the potential to really to be an equalizer rather than a separator. I think they're going to get less and less expensive and more powerful at any given cost.
Got one question from Twitter. This is from Amy Ahern. Yeah. What approaches are being piloted for kids' wearable technology? Are there applications for role-playing, learning, ideas beyond just simple health tracking?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's health tracking and non-health tracking in wearables. I was at a meeting the other day with a sock for a newborn infant that was keeping track of their health-related parameters. So there's no age that is immune from having a wearable device placed on them. And then other applications, I think gaming, for kids is an area that is a pretty large industry.
Right.
And so I think we're going to see some, exchange between wearables and gaming, some cross-fertilization there as well. But I would like to see it more in the education realm, and I think that that's coming as well. I mean, it's just even just market forces themselves, and with the idea that it is a large market, and it's a great cause.
Class?
Yeah, I had a question about, this blending of commercial and medical device. I'd really like to see this data being used in the medical environment, added to the patient's record and influencing the care plan and closing the loop. When do you see that happening?
Yeah, so it takes longer to implement something in a medical context. And I think one of the things that have been so exciting about being at Misfit is how quickly we were able to get a product out and into people's hands. And that's very satisfying. And with, for example, Sunny and Sridhar's last company, it took years and years before a glucose meter was able to be actually given to patients. Whereas Misfit, it was within about the first year of the company that we're selling Shines at the Apple Store and at Best Buy. And it's exciting for us to have so many people using it and seeing the impact that it has. There are some barriers and some challenges, and I'll just give you one example. We definitely believe that the physical activity data that's collected by wearing a device like the Shine should belong to the user. And they are able to say at any point, I don't want to have my data stored anywhere else, and we'll erase any data that on them. But once you start putting that data into an electronic medical record, or just even other third-party sites, it's very difficult to erase things from a medical record. And so, there is a movement now to negotiate how that will happen. Just 2 weeks ago, I was at a public health and quantified self meeting, and that is the issue that's on the table right now: how to negotiate the medical legal aspects to keep the privacy of the individuals safe, but bring that functionality into more of a medical setting.
So somewhat along those lines,
Yeah.
This is a question from Carly Meadows on Twitter. How can we get health insurance to cover wearable devices? I mean, that's kind of a broader closing the loop conversation that is clearly bigger than just Misfit, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that would be great. There would be a lot
Great
of
for
folks,
me too. I would love that.
Yeah,
Sign me up.
a lot of folks that would be excited about that. So one thing is they need to be medical devices and not commercial devices,
Right.
which means that they need to have medical claims about what they do and go through FDA, regulation, and that's just a process that takes time and it takes money, and it will take some significant research studies to show that wearing, X device in a certain context really makes a difference, either for prevention or for an improvement of a disease process that's already exists. And one of the challenges here is it takes much longer to show benefits from a preventive program. One area where, health insurance is one place that you could think, maybe they would pay for my Shine or another activity monitor. But corporate wellness and companies that want to encourage their employees to be healthy have an incentive to make sure that their employees are active enough, less sick time, less time away from work, just more fulfilling and more active and excited employees. So I think it's going to go into the corporate wellness space first, and we'll hopefully be able to demonstrate some efficacy in that context, and I think that's how it will move into the medical applications.
Is that research that you would have to champion yourself, you as Misfit would have to champion, or would that be an independent organization that would go forth with that?
So there's a lot of folks that are doing that. We at Misfit are, marketing our device to large companies, and we have some large companies that have their employees wearing Shines. Okay. And it's not just us who's doing that. I think the collaboration between industry and academia in this area is really important.
Okay. Question?
I have a question. You talk about the children and gaming, and it's natural for them to monitor themselves. What about the other end of the population now with the baby boomers and I'm going to talk in representation in our fear to technology, new technology and implementations and new devices. And obviously, due to our health, it's a very good market, but the fear of technology is there. We cannot say they love it.
Yeah. So it's a great point, and I think folks around the age of retirement, or just before or just after, and just folks in general that are getting to the stage in their life when their doctors are starting to prescribe them medication, or just when people are starting to go to their doctors sometimes for the first time. This is a group that I think could really benefit from a lifestyle-related intervention like a physical activity monitor, but that's a design challenge. And I think that you need to take into account who's going to be using the device. And I'll just give you an example. You can use Shine on a number of different levels. If you don't want to interact with an iPhone at all, you don't have to. You can wear the device and you can tap it to get some feedback about how you're doing. And that's all you need to do. And if you want to take it to the next level and get more information about your calories and maybe more interesting graphs, then you can do that with your phone. And if you're a super user, there are advanced features that you can use to change the way Shine works. So I think for us, it was allowing many different ways for users to interact with the activity monitor. And then I think having a design that folks would feel more comfortable using, perhaps more than a plastic device.
So I got a couple of shout outs real quick. Celise Montgomery, Charles Platt, Aaron Gray, and Matthew Katz. Thank you for tuning in online. And I think we've got time for one or two more questions. Is the microphone with anybody right now? I've got one. So I approach wearables from a unique perspective in that I have some that I consider mandatory, like my Dexcom CGM, and then I have the optional ones, or I view as optional, like my Fitbit. How do you, Misfit, how do you guys, in general, the entire wearable tech side of things, how do you approach user feedback whenever you have people that are just using it electively versus people that approach wearables from my perspective?
Yeah, so we take feedback really seriously in general, and we see that some folks are avid users wearing Shine every day, syncing all the time, interacting with the more advanced features, and then other folks will wear it when they want to. Mm. So what's interesting is I think we get the most feedback from the most avid users. So it's important for us to keep a perspective about the larger group, to say, okay, well, even though we've gotten 50 emails about this one feature that this group really wants to have added, is that really representative of everyone else who may not be as likely to write in, sort of the silent majority?
Right.
So we try to balance that feedback.
Okay. I think that's going to do it for us here in the classroom. Thanks again, Twitter, for tuning in. The hashtag is MedX. Keep the conversation going even after all of this. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight for this edition of Stanford Medicine X Live. And we'll see you back here on April 22nd, 2014 at 5:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, when we'll discuss the topic Hospital Innovation, Hospital Needs and How You Can Play a Role in the Solution. moderated by Bassam Qadri with a panel of e-patient leaders. You won't want to miss this next episode of Stanford Medicine X Live. As a reminder, this program is made possible by support from the Stanford University School of Medicine, Department of Anesthesia, Stanford AIM Lab, Stanford Hospital and Clinics, and the Agency for Healthcare Research Quality. If you haven't yet done so, please take a moment to like our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/StanfordMedX so you can continue the conversation online and stay informed of program updates. From all of us here at Stanford Medicine X, we want to thank you for joining us today and remind you to join us again next Thursday, April 24th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for another edition of Stanford Medicine X Live, featuring a new healthcare design course from the Stanford University School of Medicine called Design for Health. Next week, we are featuring a class on Doctor as Designer with Dr. Alan Green and e-patient Jamia Crockett. Online activities are a great way for those of you in our class or at home to participate and join in the online discussion around Design for Health. Don't forget to join us on Tumblr and participate in this week's online activity. And this week's online activity is about prototyping. Sketch, mock up, design, or build something which might help solve the challenge that you learned about during your empathy interview online activity from last week. You may use video, audio, or text to share your work. Post it on Tumblr with the MedX hashtag or submit a post through our Tumblr website and we'll make sure to include it on our class website. Also, please don't forget that registration for Medicine X 2014 is now open. Don't miss the year's premier patient-centered conference on emerging technology and medicine. Unique opportunities such as our masterclass program and our IDEO Design Challenge workshop have extremely limited space availability. You'll want to take advantage of these programs while our early bird registration pricing is still available until May 1st, 2014. For all of you out there taking time to tune in with us tonight, thank you for joining us and being part of the conversation. A special thanks to our guest panelists this evening. From all of us at Medicine X, we'll see you next time.